Yo, what's up guys, Alf here, and today I'm going to be doing a new installment in the Under the Meta series where I go over a deck I've been working on that I definitely think is strong and has a lot of potential, but isn't quite tier 1 for whatever reason. And in this episode I'm going to be going over my Selesnya One Ring Angels deck in Historic. So obviously the One Ring is everywhere right now, you know, it's being seen in so many decks and is definitely the most powerful card in the format. So I've been thinking of different shells that can not only run the One Ring effectively itself, but is also decent against other One Ring decks. And Angels immediately came to mind to me because it's a deck that's gaining a bunch of life as part of its proactive game plan anyway, which immediately offsets the downside of the One Ring, right? Since we're gaining life off Righteous Valkyrie and Bishop of Wings, it's very easy for us to just keep activating the One Ring without ever worrying about getting burnt out. It's even possible, because we can gain so much life, to keep activating the One Ring even if the opponent has a Shielded in play, which is really huge. And on top of that, Angels is also a deck that really wants to be running for Skyclave Apparition and for Collected Company to find Skyclave Apparition. And I think Apparition is really well positioned right now because it can very easily take out opposing One Rings, which is huge. Can also take out stuff like Shielded and Bowmasters as well. So I think Apparition is really nice at, you know, breaking those One Ring mirrors. And then Angels as an archetype, because you're gaining life naturally, is very good alongside the One Ring anyway. And additionally, I think one of the big weaknesses of Angels is it is weak to spot removal, right? The big weakness of Angels in the past is it has very disparate matchup spreads where you're very good against creature decks, but you really struggle against both control and sometimes combo as well. And the One Ring allowing you to play through a bunch of interaction is really huge, particularly when, you know, your scariest matchup in blue-white control is running Divine Purge and One Ring survives that. So I definitely think this is an interesting shell to be running right now. So if you're not familiar with the Angels shell, you know, we're still running the same core of the deck in Giada, Bishop of Wings, Resplendent Angel, and Valkyrie. Valkyrie is kind of the centerpiece of the deck that is basically a life gain enabler and a payoff in and of itself. And once you hit that 27 life threshold, giving your whole board +2/+2 is a huge buff that just allows you to close games out really quickly. Bishop of Wings is a really nice life gain enabler that also provides you with some insurance against interaction as well, which is really nice. You know, 4 life is a huge amount, particularly once you have the One Ring going. This is a really nice way to mitigate the downside of it as well. Then we've got Resplendent Angel, which is another really nice payoff for gaining life, and being able to create a 4/4 early in the game is a huge tempo swing and allows you to apply a ton of pressure really quickly. So, you know, getting curves out where you go Bishop of Wings into Valkyrie into Resplendent Angel allows you to trigger it immediately. Similarly, if you go Giada into Righteous Valkyrie into Resplendent Angel, that triggers it as well. So getting an early 4/4 is really huge. And then it also has an activated ability as a mana sink as well. And, you know, attacking in with a 5/5 lifelinker swings the lifelink race in your favor very quickly. And then getting an additional 4/4 just allows you to keep applying pressure, or allows you to stabilize if the opponent has a lot of creatures in play, which is really nice. And we've also got Giada here, which, even though it's a legendary creature, is definitely worth running 4 of because it's such a powerful effect for 2 mana. You know, allowing your board to exponentially scale as you put more Angels into play is really powerful. And then you occasionally get to ramp with this as well. You know, being able to go Giada into Bishop of Wings and a 3-drop is really nice with the ramp that this provides as well. So kind of the core of the deck hasn't really changed, but I do think that One Ring is a meaningful upgrade to enable this as well. Now, as I mentioned, I think Skyclave Apparition is really well positioned right now, and I think Angels is one of the best decks to capitalize on that. While I'm on the topic of that as well, another deck that kind of fits the same bill that I was thinking of here, where you're gaining life naturally as part of your game plan, so it works well with the One Ring, and it's a deck that also wants to be running Skyclave Apparition, is Heliod combo. But the big drawback of Heliod combo right now is that all of your life gain enablers, other than Ajani's Welcome if you're running that, like Soul Warden, all die to Orcish Bowmasters, which I think is a huge issue right now. You know, typically, you know, before Lord of the Rings came out, I think I preferred Heliod combo as a deck because one of the big weaknesses of Angels is it does take a while to close games out, which does give control and combo decks more time to get back into the game. Whereas Heliod combo, having an infinite combo that allows you to, you know, win the game on the spot in a lot of situations, is generally more powerful. But I just think that deck is so much worse positioned right now purely because of Orcish Bowmasters. So that's the main reason why I'm higher on Angels right now while we're on the topic. Then we've obviously got Collected Company at the top end of the curve here as well. You know, very good at hitting your core pieces, also very good at hitting Skyclave Apparition. And then the One Ring is basically just replacing Kyler's Reconstruction from previous builds. I think Company is generally much better than Kyler's Reconstruction because it's just much more efficient on mana. And the One Ring is just better than both of them by far. But having this as another top end card that enables you to play into longer games really helps to address some of the trickier matchups that Angels had in the past. Then in terms of the 1-drops, I do think you want at least 8 1-drops 1-drops in this deck, otherwise you're just too slow to develop. You know, one of the big weaknesses of Angels in the past is that you did lack fairly good 1-drops. Now, more recently, I have been high on running some Mana Dorks in this deck because, you know, the deck isn't that fast at closing games out, so having acceleration is really nice, particularly now that we're running the One Ring. Being able to ramp into our 3-drops and the One Ring and Collected Company is really nice. Now, in the past, I was very high on Avis's Pilgrim because it kind of fixes your mana. You know, a green Mana Dork allowing you to produce white is huge, but I really want to avoid running any 1-drops that die to Orcish Bowmasters right now, particularly Mana Dorks. Having your Avicen's Pilgrim killed by Orcish Bowmasters when you're going second is an absolute nightmare. So that's the main reason why I'm very high on Delighted Halfling right now. You know, it does have some upside in that it can make stuff like Giada and One Ring uncounterable, which can be particularly relevant against control, but the main reason that I'm running this over any other Mana Dork is purely because it has 2 toughness, so it survives the Orcish Bowmasters. Now, the fact that it doesn't provide any colour fixing isn't really too much of an issue, to be honest, because basically all of our lands produce double white, so we can fairly easily just go Delighted Halfling on turn 1 into Valkyrie, Resplendent Angel, or Skyclave Apparition on 2, so the fact that this doesn't really fix us isn't really an issue because we're running a pretty clean 2-colour deck. So Delighted Halfling is definitely an upgrade over Avicen's Pilgrim while Orcish Bowmasters in the format. And then I was kind of racking my brain for the other 1-drop. In the past, I'd run Esper Sentinel in these sorts of decks, but again, I think Esper Sentinel has become a lot worse since Orcish Bowmasters has entered the format, so I was looking through for good 1-drops that have 2 toughness that survive Orcish Bowmasters, and Haywire Might stood out to me as by far the best one, not only because it does have 2 toughness so it survives the Bowmasters, but also because it gains you life when it dies, which does play pretty well into your life gain game plan, you know, helps you potentially hit that 27 life threshold for Righteous Valkyrie, but is also really nice alongside Resplendent Angel, because say you go turn 1 Haywire Might, turn 2 Bishop of Wings, and then, you know, later in the game you go Resplendent Angel, gain 4 life. If you can then activate the Haywire Might to gain 3, that helps you hit the 5 life threshold to get a 4/4 token off Resplendent Angel, which is really nice. But more than anything else, this is just another way for us to kill opposing One Rings. This being able to exile the One Ring for 1 mana and gain us 3 life back means that this deck is very effective at fighting those One Ring mirror matches, because you have 8 ways to kill the One Ring, 12 if you're including them off Collected Company as well. So even though Haywire might not look like it's an immediate fit in the deck, I think right now when One Ring is everywhere, and there are obviously still some other impactful artifacts and enchantments being run, like Cabaretti Revels is a big one, Fable of the Mirror Breaker is another one as well. I do actually think that Haywire Might has enough utility that it's definitely worth running in the main deck. So I do think that this deck, you know, while the One Ring is popular, seems like a really interesting choice to be running for sure. Then in terms of the mana base, we've got 24 lands, which is pretty standard for these sorts of decks. You know, I don't think, even though we've got 8 4-drops, I don't think we need to go any higher because we're running Delighted Halfling that, you know, provides us some acceleration, which is really nice. We've got all of the good green-white dual lands, you know, kind of self-explanatory here. Single Boseiju and Single Iganjo are pretty much free to run as one-offs. Boseiju is a green land, which is a little bit awkward with Bishop of Wings, but I think running a single source that doesn't produce white is fine. Running 5 basic planes because we're running so many double white cards, right? We don't need that many green sources for Delighted Halfling on turn 1, you know, ideally 14. Which we do hit here, even though the pathways generally count as only half a source, because, you know, you don't really want to be playing your pathways on green because then it cuts you off Bishop of Wings, but the mana base has been working out fine for me. Then the other utility land is Nykthos, which I think, you know, the first copy of this has a lot of value because you have so many double white pip cards. This is really nice at allowing us to activate Resplendent Angel ahead of curve, and is also really nice once we start drawing a bunch of cards off the One Ring to enable us to empty our hand as well. So that's the main deck. It's felt really nice overall. I think, you know, the core Angels package is still really good. You can take a lot of the creature decks by surprise because this deck isn't really commonly played. And, you know, this is one of the decks that can utilize the One Ring the best because you have so many ways to gain life. As you start drawing more cards off the One Ring, it's very easy for you to assemble your crazy turns where you go like, you know, Righteous Valkyrie into 2 Resplendent Angels to then trigger both Resplendent Angels twice, make 2 4/4s, which then immediately trigger the Righteous Valkyrie to get you over that 27 life threshold. So once you do start drawing a bunch of cards off the One Ring, it's pretty crazy. And Company being able to find all your pieces and your removal for opposing One Rings seems really nice as well. And then onto the sideboard, we've got 4 copies of Esper Sentinel and 3 copies of Reprieve, because the big weakness of Angels as a tribe in general is that your control matchup has always been really bad. So even though Esper Sentinel was a card that I typically am not a fan of in the main deck, against blue-white control specifically, where they don't have Orcish Bowmasters, I do like subbing it in there, because in the mirror matches, we typically do want to board out Skyclave Apparition and possibly Haywire Might, depending on if the opponent's running the One Ring or not. And so having Esper Sentinel is a card that is very difficult for them to deal with. And then Reprieve also seems like a nice tool for the matchup as well. Now, full disclosure, I haven't actually faced blue-white control with this deck since I've been testing. You know, I've played 25 odd matches with this deck on the ladder. I was something like 15-4, which is a pretty respectable record. So I've not actually got to test out Reprieve yet, so I'm not 100% sure whether it's good or not, but from playing this card and a lot of other shells, I have been really impressed with this, so I imagine this should be a good tool to fight the control matchup. Then we've also got 4 copies of Fragment Reality, which is here. First of all, for creature decks where we want additional removal, like against Wizards, for example, but also this was my sideboard card of choice against Rakdos Midrange as well, because it is really effective in a lot of situations. First of all, if you have the One Ring and the opponent has an Orcish Bowmasters, Fragment Reality just works as a 1-mana way to kill the Bowmasters for free at instant speed, which is really huge. If you don't have the One Ring, then Bowmasters isn't really much of an issue, so if the opponent plays a Crucius, you're usually pretty happy to Fragment Reality that, even though it gives them a Bowmasters, because you can play through Bowmasters fairly easily whenever you don't have the One Ring. Also acts as a way to kill Shielded if you need, can kill One Ring if you need as well, so the fact that this can take out whatever problematic powerful card the opponent has is a pretty big deal. And as I mentioned, if you don't have the One Ring, you can fairly confidently use this on Crucius. Being able to kill a Bowmasters when you have a One Ring in play is very nice as well. So Fragment Reality just being a nice tool to get rid of your opponent's most powerful cards, particularly something like a Bowmaster or a Shielded when you have your own One Ring, is very important as well. And then we've got 4 copies of Remorseful Cleric, which is very important against Kethis combo and Reanimator, just to shut off their combo. And it does work pretty nicely in this deck as well, because, it's a flying creature, so we can hit off Collected Company, we can start applying pressure with it. It does gain us some life off the Righteous Valkyrie, and, it's just a card that we can find off Collected Company that we can activate at instant speed to exile the whole graveyard. I think, particularly against Kethis combo, Graveyard Hate that snipes individual cards like Unlicensed Hearth isn't really that effective. You really want to be having cards that exile the whole graveyard in one go, so the opponent has to reset their graveyard to go off again, if that makes sense. So Remorseful Cleric has felt really good against both Kethis and Reanimator. Now, some other cards that I was running previously, in my last build, as you'll see on the Untapped, I was running Shaper's Sanctuary for a little while, which, I did have some success with this deck. Hold on, I can't spell. I did have some success with this deck before the release of Lord of the Rings. I was actually doing pretty well against Rakdos, and Shaper's Sanctuary was a pretty big deal because of that. But with the addition of the One Ring and Orcish Bowmasters and Shieldred, I just found myself not wanting Shaper's Sanctuary that much because, I typically prefer to have Fragment Reality as a way to kill stuff like opposing Bowmasters to enable us to activate our One Ring, right? I often found myself in spots where I had Shaper's Sanctuary and the One Ring, but my opponent had an Orcish Bowmasters in play, which was really punishing and stopping me activating the One Ring. So the more I played, the more I wanted Fragment Reality instead of Shaper's Sanctuary, so I ended up cutting that. And I also used to run Ajani Strength of the Pride in this sideboard, specifically for the Reanimator matchup, because I did find some games against Reanimator where they would manage to force through a Serra's Emissary against me when, they either thought seized away Remorseful Cleric or killed it before they went off. And they actually have a pretty hard time racing our board because we can gain so much life. So I found against Reanimator with Serra's Emissary, I would often win the long game because I would just gain more life than they could deal damage over the course of the game, and then just the single copy of Ajani Strength of the Pride, I would just draw eventually, and then use the 0 to kill all of their Serra's Emissaries. But I've barely faced a Reanimator at all since the release of Lord of the Rings, and specifically the One Ring, so I didn't really feel like that was worth a slot, and I felt like it was worth dedicating more sideboard slots for the control matchup. So in terms of weaknesses of the deck, I still think the traditional Angels problem still persists here, right? You're very good against the fair decks, you're very good against the creature decks, but you still typically will struggle against control. I think blue-white control specifically because of Divine Purge is going to be a big deal. Now, having said that, we do have 7 sideboard cards for that matchup, and again, I haven't actually faced that matchup, unfortunately. I would like to test that matchup to see whether the package of Sentinel and Reprieve alongside the One Ring does improve it. Now, having said that, like I mentioned earlier, the One Ring not being killable by Divine Purge is pretty sick, so if we do commit to the board and the opponent taps out for Divine Purge, getting a window to resolve the One Ring does seem like it could be a big improvement in that matchup, but I still think control is going to be a tricky matchup. I also think combo decks that don't revolve around the graveyard, stuff like Indomitable Creativity, is going to be a very difficult matchup as well. And also I think the Rakdos midrange matchup can be a bit 50-50 as well. I think I'm currently 4-3 in that matchup, and I do feel that this deck definitely does have good game in that matchup because you have Apparitions and Haywire Mites to kill the opposing One Rings, and you can play the long game because of your own One Rings and Collected Company as well. So I do feel like the 4-3 record might be a bit bad variance on my side, but again, it's hard to say. I do think that matchup can be a bit shaky as well. So those are the main drawbacks of the deck, but I do think it's pretty well positioned in the Ring meta in general. I think it's a pretty generically powerful deck. a lot of decks won't be prepared for it, particularly in their removal suite as well. And like I've mentioned a few times, I do think it's a good deck that can utilize the One Ring and have good answers for it itself. So that's the deck overall. I've been having a ton of fun with it. If you've had fun with Angels in the past, I definitely think that this is the best way to build it going forwards. Next up, I've just got some gameplay with the deck so you guys can see it in action. If you've got any questions about the deck, or especially if you've got any suggestions of ways to improve it going forwards, specifically to improve the matchup against Rakdos Midrange or Control, definitely let me know in the comments, and I hope you enjoy the gameplay. Big up. Okay, so we're on the play here, and I can't keep a one-lander even though we do have a couple of halflings there, because halfling really isn't that good at fixing our mana. I feel like you really need 2 lands, even with halfling, for it to be good. So I'm going to put back a Haywire Might here, just because there are some matchups where it's not that great, and the rest of our hand is, you know, pretty sick anyway, right? So opponents on Esper Sentinel and Boros, which is interesting. So it could potentially be Greasefang, maybe? Okay, Thalia. So maybe Boros humans. So that does mean that we can't go for Collected Company here, which I think is fine, right? We can, you know, still get Bishop Wings in play, and I think it's fine to start attacking with the Righteous Valkyrie. You know, we can go for Collected Company next turn, even though it is gonna draw them a card off the Esper Sentinel. Okay, Brutal Cathar. I mean, I think, you know, we don't want to risk the Brutal Cathar flipping. Even though this does give them a card, I'm just going to main phase the company now, because we do have a lot of potentially really good hits here. And we hit Righteous Valkyrie and Resplendent Angel, which is huge. It's going to be really hard for them to beat as an aggro deck. Yeah, okay, opponent just scoops it up. Plaza of Heroes, so not 100% sure what the opponent's on. Looks like they're on, you know, humans of some kind, so definitely want the extra removal and going to cut the Haywire Mites here, just because, you know, I doubt they're going to be that good, to be honest. But yeah, these are the sorts of matchups where Angels is so well positioned. I mean, they are running, you know, Disruption, and they do have main deck creature removal in the form of Brutal Cathar, so I do have to assume that they probably have more post sideboard, but I still feel like these sorts of matchups should be really good from the Angels side. Okay, they got Isamaru, sure. So looks like they're running maybe a Flowering of the White Tree deck, if I had to guess. I guess that kind of makes sense. They were running Thalia and also Esper Sentinel as well, so... But I'm kind of surprised they're running Brutal Cathar over Skyclave Apparition. Maybe they've got some human sub-theme going on. Maybe they got Thalia's Lieutenant as a potential backup, but with Skrelv and Isamaru, I'm not sure how effective Thalia's Lieutenant would be. So not 100% sure. We'll have to see more of what they're running here. So I think I'm just going to go for the Collected Company here rather than the One Ring, right? We can get a ton of extra pressure on board. So we can either go for double Bishop of Wings or we can go for the Giada here. I think I like going for the extra Bishop of Wings just so then we can trigger Resplendent Angel from our hand next turn as well. You know, Giada is obviously sick here as well, but this way we get to trigger the Resplendent Angel again the following turn, which is pretty sick. Oh, they're running Winota. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. That explains why they're running stuff like Brutal Cathar as human payoffs for the non-humans that they're running. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And they do find a Brutal Cathar, so I am kind of glad that I kept... well, that I went for the second Bishop of Wings as opposed to the Giada here, because now we can just go for a Resplendent Angel here and immediately get another 4/4. So we can also go for Giada now that we've drawn a land as well, which means that both the Resplendent Angel and the extra token we get will enter with +1/+1 counters, which is pretty sick. So going to attack with the 4/4 here. And then get to make another token as well. So even though the opponent does have a Winota in play, which is pretty powerful, and they can force through one of their blockers with Skrelv. Wait, what does this do? Whenever... Oh, that's pretty cool. So we want to avoid blocking any of their legendary creatures here, or they get an additional combat step. And we're so far ahead on terms of life total that I don't think it's worth blocking unnecessarily here. Just want to make sure that I'm reading that right. We can still block the Brutal Cathar, but we don't want to block anything else. Okay, yeah, opponent just scoops it up. But yeah, these are the sorts of matchups where Angels is really solid. Okay, so going second here. And yeah, this looks pretty good, right? Halfling on 1 into potentially Valkyrie on 2 is a pretty sick curve out. And we've also got Apparition and Haywire Might here, which is, you know, going to be good interaction in a lot of different matchups. Our opponent does have Inquisition though, which, if they do take the Valkyrie, then our hand is pretty reactive here, which isn't great. But additionally, if they let us have the Halfling, we do have a lot of good draws. Wow, they take the Apparition. I mean, I'm kind of surprised about that. Maybe they have a clean removal spell for the Valkyrie, or I guess more likely they might have a Crucius or something. You know, I have to imagine they're on some kind of mid-range deck, so taking the Apparition probably means that they've got an impactful 3-mana play they want to protect. Okay, they do push the Halfling, so they have slowed us down quite a lot. We did run out the Haywire Might, so I think I'm just going to run them both out here. I don't think there's any real advantage to holding on to them, you know. Only thing we'd really get punished for here is if they have a Sweeper, which I very much doubt they're running in the main deck of a Rakdos mid-range deck. Okay, interesting. So they're on Jund then, and they do have the Crucius, so that's definitely why they ended up taking the Skyclave Apparition. Okay, and they pitch Crucius naming Ambitious, so I have to imagine they've either got the Ring or Shieldred in hand right now, which is definitely a concern for sure. Obviously can't attack with the Haywire Mites here, so just going to have to ship it back. But we do have a Righteous Valkyrie in place, so, you know, Collected Company's a very good top deck here. They've got Molten Impact, so we do lose the Valkyrie here and they do attack. Definitely going to let the damage through here. You know, we can gain a lot of life, so we're not too worried about that. So we know that one of the cards in their hand is most likely a Shieldred or a One Ring. So it'll be interesting to see. I assume they'll probably discard the other card here. I mean, I guess taking out Valkyrie is kind of a priority, but I'm kind of surprised they didn't just slam One Ring or Shieldred if they do have it. Maybe they're running something else at the top end of the curve. If they are in Jund, there are more options, obviously, but One Ring and Shieldred definitely seems like the best thing to be doing at the top of the curve of these sorts of decks. Wow, they pitch a Fable naming Ambitious as well, so now we know they have 2 top-end cards, which is pretty scary considering they have 6 mana here. So, I mean, I'm going to attack anyway because I don't think we're really going to be blocking with the Haywire Mites. If they do have a One Ring, I really want to save these. You know, I don't want to risk them killing one, you know, blocking with a Haywire Might, then them killing another one and going for One Ring. Oh, yikes. Okay. So they had a Minsk and Boost, so that's what they have at the top end. I mean, there's a chance they're still running the One Ring and Shieldred, right? I have seen some lists that just run a single 5-drop that you can get by pitching one of your 4s. Okay, they do pitch Bowmasters, so I mean, we can attack Minsk and Boo down to 2 here, to 2 loyalty, but still not the most impactful thing. And, you know, we can obviously bluff something here, but I think since Razor Edge Thicket is a tap land, I might as well just run it out here. But yeah, we're in a rough spot because we know they have something else good here because they discarded a Fable naming Ambitious. So if that is a One Ring, we can obviously kill it with Haywire Might. Okay, they do have Jostle, so I assume they're going to push something here. And then they could sack the hamster and draw 4. They just choose to make the hamster a 7/7. They choose not to attack, which I think I'm pretty happy about. I guess they're trying to protect the Minsk and Boo here. Okay, so they do push the Giada, but we still get a 1/1 token, so we can still attack the Minsk and Boo. But we're in a really rough spot here. We need something good. We need, like, the One Ring, really, here, I think. Okay, they attack us with the hamster. I think we just let that through, right? There's no real point in champ blocking. We want to be able to attack Minsk and Boo with the 1/1. Bishop of Wings enables a lot of good top decks, and as I mentioned, I don't really want to be blocking with Haywire Might, especially when it has, you know, when it's a trampler. Yeah, I think, I mean, very close to conceding here. I think I'll give it one more draw step. We could potentially still get back in the game if we draw One Ring into loads of stuff, but, you know, even then, they can just turn Hamster into a 10/10 and then sack it to draw 10, or most likely they can just attack with the 7/7 and then sack it to deal 7 directly to us, and there's nothing we can really do about that, right? We will be gaining 6 life back off the Haywire Mites, but that's still, you know, not going to end up winning us the game. Okay, they got the Edict, so we'll just sack a Haywire Might to gain 3 here. I mean, we'll still play it out in case the opponent chooses to just plus on the tokens instead. They do get back Bowmasters, so now, I don't know, that just shuts off One Ring as a good top deck now, unfortunately. So they attack with everything. I mean, I'm pretty sure they are probably going to just sack the hamster main phase 2, but might as well play it out just in case they choose not to for some reason. I mean, having said that, you know, we barely have any good top decks. I mean, if the Bishop of Wings survives here, we could potentially draw Collected Company into, like, double Resplendent Angel. might be good enough, but... And we do survive them sacrificing the hamster here, but... Wow, they choose not to draw 7. Okay, they do have the One Ring. So it's good to know they are running the One Ring. So look, if I had to guess, I'd imagine they're running a single copy of Minsc and Boo. Yeah, okay, Jarder's not going to get us there. So that was a little bit rough. Our draw just didn't line up particularly well here. So I definitely think this is a matchup for the Shaper's Sanctuary over some of the Halflings. And I think I don't know, Portable Hole's a little bit awkward because it only deals with Bowmasters, but I think dealing with Bowmasters is important to be able to do, particularly, because we have our own the One Ring. Although maybe Fragment Reality is going to be better, potentially, because that can also kill their bigger creatures, right? Like, Bowmasters is only an important to kill threat if we have exactly the One Ring, so I might try out Fragment Reality instead as a way to... potentially, kill creatures and give them a Bowmaster, but that doesn't really matter too much because if we don't have the One Ring, Bowmaster does nothing against the rest of our deck. So even though this is a little bit slow, I think on the play we can keep this. And in general, you really don't want to be mulliganing against the Thoughtseize deck, particularly if they're running Jarsel as well. They can kind of double up on it. Okay, no Thoughtseize in 1 is great to see. Just going to run out the Haywire Might here and then... If they run something we want to kill, obviously use the Apparition, but more likely than not, I imagine we'll probably be going for a Splendid Angel next turn. So it looks like the opponent has something. I mean, Arena's kind of giving away that it's almost certainly Fatal Push here, which is good information to have. And they do end up using it, which is interesting. So that makes me think they probably have either Fable or One Ring for them to use it that early, unless they have a lot of removal in hand. Okay, Righteous Valkyrie is a very good draw here. Going to run that out, and then almost certainly going to be going for the One Ring next turn. I mean, I guess if they play a 3-drop, we might want to use Apparition on it, but... Okay, they do have Fable, which makes sense why they went after the Haywire Might now, but... I think I'm just going to slam the One Ring here. Even if they have Shielded as a follow-up, we can just hit it with Skyclave Apparition. And we also have Valkyrie as a blocker here to stop them, or at least disincentivize them from attacking with the 2-2. I mean, again, if they have another Fatal Push, they can just attack, crack the treasure to trigger Revolt and kill the Valkyrie, but I think that's fine, right? We have an active Ring in play. We have Apparition to deal with the card we're most worried about in Shieldred right now. They do have Terror Sunder for the Ring, but we have the second one in hand, thankfully, so that shouldn't really matter. They do attack with the 2-2, so... And they don't use Fatal Push, which I'm kind of surprised about. Maybe they have a Bone Crusher Giant here? Oh, well, maybe they just... Okay, yeah, they probably just misclicked, right? They should have used Fatal Push to force through the... Oh, I guess it doesn't really matter, because we have protection from the Ring, yeah, so... Not a punt from the opponent there. Didn't make a difference how they did it there, so... Either way, we get to resolve the One Ring here again, and basically forcing the opponent to have another piece of removal for it, or a Shieldred. A little bit annoying that we didn't draw land, but I'm pretty confident, unless they have another Terror Sunder here, that we should be able to find one the following turn. Okay, they have a One Ring of their own, but thankfully we have Apparition as an answer here. Just gotta hope they don't... I guess even if they have Thoughtseize here, it doesn't make a difference, right? Because they can't Thoughtseize while we have protection. So they attack with the 2-2 to get a treasure, presumably. And weird that they shocked in. Maybe they have a Fatal Push here, although... Yeah, I guess Fatal Push makes sense. Okay, no, they use Peristration, sure. So really hoping to find another land here if possible. Oh, okay, we draw Haywire Might, so that's actually nice, because now we can use Haywire Might to kill the One Ring and hold on to Apparition to kill Shieldred, which is pretty nice. Now again, we've not actually seen Shieldred, but I have to imagine they're running it, right? If they're running One Ring, I feel like it's a mistake to not run the Shieldred. And then we can just run out Shaper's Sanctuary plus Bishop of Wings here, which is pretty nice. And then next time we've got a pretty good option, right? We can go Bishop of Wings into Resplendent Angel to trigger it, get a 4-4, and then the following turn we can trigger Resplendent Angel again. Plus we're obviously going to be drawing a ton of cards off the One Ring, so pretty nice synergy here between the One Ring and the rest of the Angels in our deck. Okay, Jarsel is annoying. They do get to Fatal Push the Bishop of Wings here, which does mean that with what we've got at the moment, we can't trigger the Resplendent Angel next turn, but we are going to be drawing a lot of cards, especially if they do push the Bishop of Wings, because we have this Shaper's Sanctuary in play. One thing to note that's important as well is that the The Shaper Sanctuary is a May ability, so if the opponent does have a Bowmasters or a Shieldred in play and you don't want to trigger it, you can just decline on the Shapers, which is, it's definitely come up so far. So they do attack him with a 2-2, but, we're at 20. We're going to be gaining a lot of life off the Bishop of Wings anyway. Yeah, I was going to say it would be a little bit annoying if they had a Bowmasters, but them tapping out here just means that we're in the clear. Now, it is kind of tempting to use potentially a Skyclave Apparition on the Jarsil here, but I think it's kind of a nightmare if we do that and they then have a Shieldred, but I mean, maybe it's worth it because they do have a Go for the Throat in the graveyard now, which they can use as removal next turn if we don't kill the Jarsil here. Got a lot of options though. So we have got 6 mana, so we could potentially just go Apparition into Resplendent Angel here, which does use our mana pretty efficiently, and the 3/3 body does make it awkward for them to attack past with the Shaman tokens they've got. So I think I am going to take out the Jarsil, because otherwise they just get a free removal spell on whatever else we cast, which does leave us kind of soft to Shieldred, but even with Shieldred, we have Bishop of Wings and as a way to gain life, so we could just potentially activate the ring even if the opponent does have a Shieldred. They have a Minsc and Boo instead, which is honestly, normally Minsc and Boo is a lot scarier, but with One Ring in play, I'm actually, not too bothered by that right now. So they do attack with the hamster. We'll definitely just take the damage here. We can afford to at 17. So we go down to 13. Going to take another 3 off the One Ring down to 10, but we have so many good draws here. If we can find another way to trigger Bishop of Wings, which we do. So I feel like we should have a pretty explosive turn here. So now we can go Bishop into Giada into Resplendent Angel, which is a pretty sick curve out here. I mean, they could have a Fatal Push. It looks like they do have some sort of they have something here, but that could just be the reflection of Kiki Jiki giving them priority. Wow, it doesn't look like they have Fatal Push, or I feel like they would have used it on the Bishop of Wings. So yeah, this is a huge turn for us now. Now we get to trigger both Resplendent Angels. We're going to be getting a ton of life. We can attack the Minsc and Boo down to 1 loyalty, so they can't minus the draw cards. So yeah, I feel pretty good about this spot now. We get 2 4/4s. They grow a bunch because of the Giada. We gain 4 life off the Bishop of Wings. Then we can activate the One Ring and still have Righteous Valkyrie available for next turn as well. So One Ring putting in work this game. Even if they make a hamster a 7/7, that's not going to be able to attack past our Vigilance Angels here. So yeah, even though the opponent has a pretty sick board here, we're still very much in the driver's seat in this game. Yeah, okay, sweet, we got that, nice. So One Ring definitely carried us that game, but that kind of shows it's just really nice synergy between the One Ring and the Angels show in general. I think I'm pretty happy with how I sideboarded there, just going to run it back. But yeah, in general, it's interesting whether Rakdos or Jund is a slightly better matchup. Obviously, them having Terra Sunder to kill the One Ring is a little bit annoying, but Terra Sunder is pretty bad against the rest of our deck. For the most part, it's just a 4-mana removal spell. And I think the cards that we're most scared about are Crucius, One Ring, and then Shieldred and Bowmasters if we have our own One Ring. And I think we're much more likely to come across that sort of thing against Rakdos than Jund, because the Rakdos lists tend to max out on those sort of cards. So opponent stocks in the Overgrown Tomb, so that's almost certainly them holding up Fatal Push. So definitely going to lead on the Shaper Sanctuary here. They could again have Terra Sunder for it, but if they don't, it's going to be pretty hard for them to interact in the early few turns. Okay, they got Abundant Harvest, and they hit a Blooming Marsh, which they run out, sure. So I think I'm going to run out the Bishop of Wings first here. Generally I think Bishop of Wings is a much better setup card. So we do know they got Fatal Push from last turn. So if they do use it, we get to draw a card off the Shaper Sanctuary, which is really nice here. And we draw into Collected Company, which is sick. So we'll see what else they've got. But yeah, I feel pretty good here, right? We can go Giada into Haywire Might next turn, or if we draw one of the 3 drops, we're in a pretty good spot. Wow, another Collected Company's gas. And yeah, if they want to use a removal spell on Giada, we get to draw another card here, so Shaper's putting in work here. The only annoying thing about Shaper Sanctuary, though, is there is a lot of draw hate right now. So when the opponent doesn't have Bowmasters, Shieldred, or their own proactive plays, if the opponent's playing on defense, then Shaper Sanctuary is great, obviously. Okay, they do have a Terra Sunder for it, but I found it's a pretty bad card when you're behind, right? Typically, in the past, it's still pretty good because Rakdos and Jund tended to need to interact to win, whereas now with the One Ring and Shielded, they don't even need to. They can often just ignore it. So even though Shaper Sanctuary has performed well in this game, I'm still a little bit skeptical about it. I feel like there might be a better option potentially because Rakdos and Jund can tend to just go way over the top now. Okay, pretty rough for the opponent. They're obviously stuck on mana, both in terms of they don't have access to red and they don't have their 4th land here. So I imagine we're going to pull pretty far ahead here with the Collected Company, unless they have a sweeper. If they're sandbagging a sweeper, we might be in trouble, but I feel like we're in a pretty sick spot here. So could play the Thicket into Collected Company, which I think I like, and I'm going to hold on to... I guess we could go Company now. I mean, we'll see what they do. If they try and kill one of our creatures, we might Company now just to try and maximize stuff. Yeah, I'm going to Company now. It does play into Sweeper, but I very much doubt they're running one. Okay, hitting double Apparition is kind of rough. If they now resolve a One Ring, that's going to be a potential mistake. I mean, we still have the Haywire Might as an answer, but... And having said that, if we had hit more Angels, it probably would have been better to do it main phase. Okay, they did find a red source, but... I think we're probably, far enough ahead where it's going to be too hard for the opponent to get back into it. I mean, having said that, Mana Screw does mean that they just have all gas in hand, so I imagine they have a lot of interaction or something like that, unless they're just holding onto a bunch of red cards. So I do Shielded Edict. I think I'm just going to sack the Apparition, because I do want to save these Haywire Mights for potential One Rings. Right, it would be a nightmare if I end up losing to One Ring into the One Ring just because I tried to force through an extra point of damage by sacking, keeping around the Apparition instead of the Haywire Might. So they do have a Molten Impact, which does buy them quite a lot of time, to be honest, but we still have a lot of really good draws here. Okay, another Righteous Valkyrie is great. Now we get to buff our whole board, so I think that might be lethal. So yeah, it was a bit, obviously sucks for the opponent they got stuck on lands, but that felt pretty good overall. Okay, so we're going second here. And, I mean, this is obviously not a great hand. We obviously have way too many lands here, but I don't know. I feel like we've got a lot of good top decks, and Thoughtseize decks are so popular right now that I really want to avoid mulliganing at all if possible. Okay, they are a Thoughtseize deck, so I'm kind of glad that we kept this, even though we're going to be left on empty kind of soon, but I was literally just about to say we have a lot of good top decks, including the One Ring, so kind of paid off straight away for keeping this hand. And even though there is definitely an argument to holding onto the Thicket here to preserve information, I actually think I prefer running it out here, because then I think the opponent's less likely to want to use a Thoughtseize if they think we just have a bunch of lands in hand. Right, they're more likely to discard as something like a Crucius, for example, if they think that we're just sitting on an all-land hand. Okay, Apparition's a pretty nice draw here. Now, ideally we would like to save that for a One Ring or Shielded, but Crucius is a threat we have to deal with, or they're just going to snowball the game really hard, so... And we obviously want to use our mana efficiently as well. So, let's see what the opponent has here. Okay, they've got a Seasoned Pyromancer, which is fine. Right, we get to resolve the One Ring here, unless they hit exactly land into Thoughtseize here. And again, there is a chance they might not want to use a discard spell if they think we've just got a bunch of lands in hand. Okay, I was worried there that they did have the Thoughtseize. Just a Bloodtithe Harvester, so we do get to resolve the One Ring here. And we found a Haywire Might in case the opponent has one. So the main thing we're worried about at this point is just Shieldred, I think. Gonna wait to draw. I don't think there's really much advantage. Actually, no, I probably should have drawn during my turn because we have protection, so I don't need to worry about Thoughtseize. And if they have potentially Orcish Bowmasters, that could be a bit annoying as well. I mean, having said that, they... actually, yeah, I think I should have just done it during my turn in case they find Orcish Bowmasters. So again, going to activate it now before they have access to 2 mana, just in case they find the Bowmasters off the Crucius here. Okay, drawing Halfling isn't great, but, we've got another 3 draws here, and we have a lot of really good top decks. Okay, Collected Company is great here. So yeah, if the opponent can't find an answer to One Ring, or find a hate piece for it, I feel like we're in a really good spot here. So got a few options here. I think I prefer going for Delighted Halfling and Collected Company here. And then, we can follow up with Righteous Valkyrie. The alternative is just going Haywire Might, Halfling, Valkyrie, which... I feel like company just has the higher upside here, especially if we can hit a Skyclave Apparition to deal with their Crucius. That'll be pretty sick. Okay, they go for Shieldred's Edict, just taking out the Halfling. I'm completely fine with that. I'm going to set a stop during their main phase 2, just in case they don't attack with the Crucius. We want to be able to hit it with Apparition before they get the Exile if possible. Okay, Bishop of Wings Giada is a pretty nice hit here. And we can actually just take out the Crucius here if we wanted to, which I think I'm happy to do, right? We do want to deal with Crucius before it starts running away with the game. Obviously, we'll get a bit blown out by a removal spell here, but I think I'm fine. You know, even if they do, then we're still going to be drawing a bunch off the One Ring. We're definitely winning the long game here, unless the opponent can find, you know, a Bowmasters or a Shieldred. Even a single Bowmasters probably isn't good enough in this spot, though, I don't think. Okay, sweet. So, opponent's out of gas here already. We can draw again with the One Ring, and because of Bishop of Wings and Valkyrie, we really don't need to worry about the life loss at all here. So, interesting spot. We've got a few options here. Again, I'm definitely going to be saving this Apparition for something like a Shieldred for sure. And I think I prefer just going, you know, holding company up again. Don't think I want to attack because I might want to trade this 1/1 with one of their spirit, one of their spirit tokens off the Seasoned Pyromancer. And then, yeah, company, we've got a lot of good hits here as well. Okay, they've got another Crucius, but they've got no cards in hand to be able to filter with it. See if they attack here. No, okay, so they respect the Collected Company. Might as well do it now in case we hit Resplendent Angels, and we do. Yeah, that's another important thing. If you do have Collected Company and, you know, something like a Bishop of Wings, it's always worth casting it before the end step, or you don't get the Resplendent Angel triggers. But yeah, now we're definitely going to be winning this, right? We've got the Righteous Valkyrie in hand, we've got the One Ring going, so definitely managed to, you know, position ourselves into a good spot there. So here, we definitely want the Shaper Sanctuary and the Fragment Reality. I've honestly been pretty impressed with Fragment Reality every time I've played it so far, so I am definitely considering, you know, running more in the sideboard, because I have been in a few spots so far where I've had Fragment Reality alongside the One Ring and the opponent has like a Shieldred or a Bowmasters in play, and, you know, because of the amount of hate there is for card draw at the moment, not sure it's the best option against Rakdos Midrange. So I definitely think I'll try out maybe some more Fragment Realities, because that's felt pretty sick whenever I've drawn it against Rakdos Midrange, right? Being able to take out Orcish Bowmasters when we have a One Ring just cleanly, because they don't run any 1-drops, is really nice. Being able to take out Shieldred, especially when we have a One Ring, is really nice. And also, if we don't have a One Ring, being able to use it on a Crucius does give them a Bowmaster, which makes future One Ring draws not great, but if we just have our Fair Angels game plan and we're not reliant on the One Ring, taking out Crucius and just giving them a Bowmasters doesn't really do anything against our deck outside of the One Ring. So I think if I am going to replace Sanctuary, Fragment Reality might be the card, but I'm definitely going to try out a few other things and see how that works. So this hand obviously isn't ideal, you know, we don't have that much stuff, but we really want to keep any 7-card hand that has a decent split of lands and spells, because mulliganing against a Thoughtseize deck is always pretty risky. So in terms of what the opponent's going to take here, I could see an argument to maybe taking the Haywire Might if they have a One Ring, but if they have any amount of creature removal, then that's not really a concern. The other two cards are definitely more high impact. Okay, they go for the Giada and we drew an extra one, so that's obviously sick for us, but I think out of the two, Bishop of Wings is probably the more problematic card, because it's not only a better enabler, but it also provides more protection against interaction. Oh no, I shouldn't have attacked. Okay, that was a punt on my part, right? You should never attack with a 1/2 into potential Orcish Bowmasters mana. Yeah, that was just me getting distracted. So yeah, that was a big mistake on my part. Now if they have a One Ring, that's going to be a really big throw, because we really didn't need to get in for the 1 damage there. And losing Haywire Might against a One Ring deck can make a huge difference. Okay, thankfully no Crucius from the opponent is good to see. And we drew a Collected Company, which is pretty nice. So I'm going to run out with the Giada here, gain 4 off the Bishop of Wings, and then just ship it back. Now the opponent can kill the Giada with Bloodtithe Harvester here, but we will get an extra 1/1. And now if, you know, both creatures survive... Ah, okay, they have a Fatal Push, probably into Bloodtithe Harvester activation here, so... Okay, I was going to say we have really explosive hits off Company. Now Bishop of Wings and Giada have gone, they're not going to be as good, but we still do have the Company. They didn't have a Thoughtseize, so... Still, you know, Collected Company is very, very powerful. I'm not going to do it now, even though they're attacking, because if they play Shieldred here or Crucius... Okay, they do play Shieldred. I do want to potentially be able to hit it with a Skyclave Apparition if possible. Okay, we didn't hit an Apparition, but Resplendent Angel into Righteous Valkyrie is kind of like the next best thing. Now, you know, as I was just mentioning, you do kind of often want to wait on... you want to fire off Collected Company before the end step, but if you don't have any creatures in play, there's no way that you can trigger the Resplendent Angel anyway. And now we're in a pretty interesting spot here where I think I'm just going to fire off the Haywire Might activation now, and then we'll hit the 5 life threshold for the Resplendent Angel and get an extra 4/4 in play. So even though you typically don't want to burn a Haywire Might just on a blood token, getting the extra 4/4 flyer, I guess it's a 6/6 in this spot, I'm hoping should be good enough to just close the game out here, right? They should, unless they have a sweeper here, I think we should just be good. Okay, they do have Seasoned Pyromancer, which does gain them 4 life back. And, you know, get some blockers in play on the ground, but even if they have Fatal Push here, that's not going to be enough. Okay, they attack with Shieldred. Maybe they do have Fatal Push, in which case it's best for me not to block, right? We're at 42, we really don't care about the damage at this point. So we should just be good to attack and win here. And we drew another land to be able to activate the Resplendent Angel, so I don't think there's anything they could have here to save them. Yeah, okay, sweet, we got there, nice. Okay, so we're on the play here, and I can't keep a no-lander, unfortunately. This one looks pretty good, though, right? We can put back a Delighted Halfling, and then we've potentially got access to Halfling into Apparition on turn 2, which I'm not sure is that relevant against that many decks, unless maybe the opponent's playing Devotion and we need to take out their mana dork, but potentially turn 3 One Ring is pretty sick. Well, the opponent does have Thoughtseize. Our hand is pretty vulnerable to Thoughtseize here, because if they take the One Ring, and we are presumably against a mid-range deck here, we're going to want to hold on to Apparition. Wow, they take the Apparition. Okay, so that must mean they've got a second Thoughtseize then, I imagine. Going to play the Plains here just to conceal a little bit of information, which isn't always worth it, but I feel in this spot it is. So I assume they just go second Thoughtseize here, and then we're kind of in trouble. Drawing another land here is pretty rough. Obviously would have liked to see anything else at this point. Okay, they've got a Halfling of their own. Wow, they don't have a Thoughtseize. Okay, so they must have a Shieldred here then, right? That's the only thing that makes sense. Because if they had a Bowmasters, they would have probably still taken the One Ring. The only thing I can think of is land into Shieldred. Yeah, okay, so they do have the Shieldred, which is a little bit annoying. I mean, I am just going to fire off the Company here just in case we hit Apparition. Okay, sick, we do. So now we can take out the Shieldred, which isn't locking down our One Ring anymore, and we get a Righteous Valkyrie. So we're in such a sick spot now. You know, we're ahead on board, and we're going to pull ahead on terms of card advantage. So get to draw 2 here. Going to play the Temple Garden tapped and just ship it back. I mean, they obviously could have another Shieldred or potentially Bowmasters here, but I'm not really scared about a single Bowmasters. If they have double Bowmasters, that's going to be pretty annoying, but just a single one should be beatable here for sure. So we'll see what they got here. I mean, Jund does have a pretty big selection of removal. Wow, they just ship it back. Okay, so they must have at least one Bowmasters here, right? Because Jund mid-range typically doesn't play at instant speed very often. Just got to hope they don't have a second one. If they only have one, I think that's fine. Okay, and the fact they go after the Apparition probably tells me they only have one, because I feel like they would have gone after the Valkyrie if they had 2 here. So they do get to kill the Apparition, which gives them a 4/4, and they also get to kill the Halfling here, which I think is fine. Oh wait, they could have killed the Valkyrie, right? I just realised that. They could have gone after the Valkyrie. I mean, maybe they were concerned we had an instant speed way to kill the Bowmasters, which would have been kind of a blowout if they'd gone after the Valkyrie initially, but I'm pretty happy about this, because now we can go Bishop of Wings into Collected Company, and we have some really good hits off Company, right? If we hit Resplendent Angel, I think that's just going to put us so far ahead here that we should be good to win. So, okay, that's not ideal, obviously, 2 Haywire Mites, but we still have the ring online. As long as they don't have a second Bowmasters, I still feel pretty good about this spot. Okay, they do have a Terror Sunder for the One Ring. Thankfully, we have a second one here. Just considering whether I want to attack here or not. I mean, I think I probably should, right? Because the other blockers we've got in play are going to stop them attacking with Bowmasters and Halfling, and there's no way we're chump blocking a 4/4 with the Valkyrie, so we might as well attack with it. And then, you know, we could obviously chump block with one of the Haywire Mites, but I really don't want to risk them going Fatal Push on a Haywire Mite into One Ring and then us not have an answer, although we do have 2 more Haywire Mites in hand, so maybe it's better to just preserve life there, especially if they did have something like a second Shieldred. So yeah, maybe we should have chump blocked there just to preserve our life total a little bit, but getting this Bishop of Wings in play is already going to gain us 4 life back straight away. Maybe I should have played the One Ring first, but I feel like I want to wait until their turn to activate the One Ring, because They could have a second Bowmasters, and if they do, it's best... Actually, I guess if they had another Bowmasters, they probably would have flashed it in response to the One Ring to damage us before the protection. But either way, if they are sandbagging it, it's probably best to wait until their turn anyway. Or if they're sandbagging a piece of removal like a Tear Asunder, they'll probably want to wait for me to activate it. And doing it during their turn, wow, they did have the extra Bowmasters, okay. So I am glad I waited to activate it, but I'm kind of surprised they didn't do it in response to the One Ring itself, although I guess we have enough creatures in play where they can just target our creatures instead. The protection doesn't really do all that much here, but finding a Resplendent Angel here is sick. I feel like we can, you know, activating One Ring when they have two Bowmasters in play is kind of sketchy, but Resplendent Angel on this board is probably going to put us so far ahead that we don't even need to activate the One Ring again. Right, we're above the 27 life threshold, so we can attack him for 4. I'm just going to run out my hand here as blockers to try and preserve that 27 life threshold, but this token of Resplendent Angel entering is going to gain us so much life anyway that I don't even think the opponent has a chance coming back in this game now. Unless they main deck a sweeper. Yeah, we got there, nice. So, in terms of sideboarding, Shape of Sanctuary in the sideboard here might look a little bit weird that we're not bringing it in, considering this was the matchup where I wanted it in the first place, but the more I've played this matchup since the One Ring release, the more I like Fragment Reality as a way to efficiently answer Bowmasters, which would have been very useful that game, for example, but also take out Crucius and Shieldred as well. So I think I might end up cutting Shape of Sanctuary from the sideboard, actually, because this sort of deck is the main matchup where I used to bring it in, and now with Fragment Reality, I'm not bringing it in anymore. So I might, try swapping it out maybe for some more cards in the control matchup, which I unfortunately haven't faced yet. I would really like to face control and see whether the matchup's improved with the ring somewhat or not. So here, obviously we have the choice between Bishop Wings and Giada. Just going to run out the Giada here because if they do have removal here, I'd much rather them use it while we have the second one. And they do the user go for the throat, so very happy with that exchange for sure. And then we could go Giada into Haywire Might or Bishop of Wings into Haywire Might. Now there is kind of a good argument with Giada because we do get the ramp, so if we find the fourth land we could potentially go Bishop of Wings into Resplendent Angel here, but I don't know, I kind of like getting Bishop of Wings in play first, and now we've drawn a second Bishop of Wings. We're kind of paid off for that play because now if both Bishop of Wings survives, we can go Resplendent Angel next turn, which then triggers the 5 life threshold and gets us the 4/4 token immediately. Wow, opponent's running Karn, interesting. I mean, Karn is obviously very good against One Ring decks, so kind of makes sense, but I think they're going to have a hard time defending Karn here. So definitely just going to run out the Resplendent Angel, and then we can attack the Karn down to 3 loyalty. And then we also have 7 powers worth of threats in play for next turn, so they're really going to struggle to defend the Karn here, I think. In terms of tutor targets they could get off the Karn, if they have a land, they could go for Sky Sovereign, but that only kills the Resplendent Angel. We get 2 1/1 tokens off the Bishop, and we still have the 4/4 here, so I guess they could also get Karn's Silex if they're running that, but not many lists I've seen are running Silex, and if they're running Jund Midrange, I'm not sure how much room in the sideboard they really have for artifacts. This is why I'm not very high on Karn in these sorts of decks. Wow, they just scoop it up. I mean, we were pretty far ahead on board, so it makes sense. So that's the deck overall. As you saw in the gameplay there, I was experimenting with a number of different options in the sideboard, but I do feel like this configuration is probably the best so far. As I said, I haven't faced control yet, so I'm not 100% sure if Sentinel and Reprieve is better than Elite Spellbinder and other stuff that I've tried in the past. So if you do try this deck out and you do queue into a deck like Blue-White Control, definitely let me know in the comments how Sentinel and Reprieve worked. But I definitely think, in theory, this should be pretty good. And then Fragment Reality over Shape of Sanctuary has been great, and Remorseful Cleric's been great as well. So I'm a big fan of this exact configuration. I was also looking through gameplay I'd recorded to try and include some losses to show you what this deck looks like. But the 2 losses that I recorded against Rakdos Midrange were both massive punts on my part, so maybe the matchup is better than I think, and I just ended up making a bunch of mistakes. Either way, I've been really happy with the deck, but there are still some issues, as I talked about earlier. Specifically against control, I don't think this deck is going to be having a positive win rate, even with the Sentinels and the Reprieve. So, like I said, definitely let me know in the comments if you've got any suggestions as ways to improve the decks in areas that Angels typically struggle. Definitely let me know in the comments if you've got any questions at all, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Big up!